Hi, this is AP Steadham from AP As We See It at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame luncheon with Tim Brando, Fox Sports college football analyst. Tim, thank you for taking a few moments.
Well, great to be back with you again.
Tim, college football, it's so changed with all this NIL, the transfer portal. Just a few thoughts from you. What would you like to emphasize to tell people about college football and the future?
That it's not in the desperate trouble that everyone believes it is in June and July. That when August gets here and the games are about to start, we're going to be back at it, and the games are going to be the headlines, not the furor of all the change and the drama that's taking place. Frankly, change was necessary. And yeah, it's painful at times to watch from distance because the NCAA did such a disservice for college football. The good news is the future of college football is now in the hands of college football people. The commissioners of the conferences of college football that are playing it and spending money at the highest level, and they should be in governance of the sport, not the NCAA. The NCAA does a great job of putting on basketball tournaments, and a great job of handling the non-revenue producing sports. Right. They've done 80 championships, and they've done them really well. But they lost a court case in 1984 that everyone forgot about. And when they lost that court case, they lost all the revenue that was derived from college football. So what they've done for many years, and the college presidents allowed them to do it, they undermined college football in every way imaginable with every ruling they made. That was going on with the portal, opening it at the wrong time, at the absolute worst time for college football. Why did they do that? Because they were angry and upset that they could not get money from college football. So they kicked the can to the curb for years and years and years on name, image, and likeness. 2 major lawsuits that they lost. And ultimately what the schools did do was say, you know what, it is worth it for us to get away from you to say that we'll each as universities pay $20.5 million a year to get you the hell out. That's what's going on. Big picture, that's really what's going on, and that's the essence of it. And those of us, and I know a lot of fans sometimes don't like hearing this, but national television, whether it's ESPN or Fox or whoever else is invested, we are the ones that are providing the revenues for those schools to pay that $20.5 million by each school to take care of revenue sharing. And hopefully the rev share situation will cool down the collectives and some of the so-called, buying of players that we all know is true. It's really not name, image, and likeness. It's really been buying players to play football. Hopefully that will take care of itself. And I know that Coach Saban, by example, at the urgency of President Trump and a few other people, is going to be involved in some way with this council that they're putting together so that they have a handle on what you can and what you cannot do. There needed to be and there will be guardrails moving forward. And so this, free agency without a salary cap thing is going to come to an end. Now, it'll take a while. There'll be some bumps along the way. But we're in better shape now than we were 2 years ago. A lot better shape. So that's what I would tell college football fans.
Right. Tim, you know so much about the SEC. My show is devoted to the SEC primarily. What do you like to tell people about the conferences you cover now with Fox?
Well, first of all, I'm still a born and bred SEC guy.
Yes.
And I'm not Benedict Arnold because I left the SEC. I took a better opportunity at Fox, and I got to call games in places that I had never been. I had never done a game at the Horseshoe or the Big House or the Rose Bowl, and now I get to do them regularly. I had been to Georgia a gazillion times, Alabama, LSU, so I'm having a great time doing football outside the South. But SEC football is still near and dear to my heart. I follow it very closely. I've always said to people, I may be from the South and I may be from Louisiana, but I cover all of college football, always have. Yes. I approached it that way when I was in the SEC. Right. And if there was a problem within the league, even though I was covering it, I was going to talk about it. And I don't talk about it as often because I got out of the radio show, that part of the business. I'm not on daily pontificating on issues of the day like I was for so many years. But when people ask me questions, I give them frank answers, and that's the way I've been built, and that's what I'll do for the rest of my life. But those conferences see what the SEC has evolved into, and they say, okay, that's the bar. We need to meet that bar. And I think the Big Ten has done a really good job of doing that in recent years.
Couple years.
No doubt about it. Now, they're not as deep as the SEC is yet, but I think the chances for them becoming that are very, very good. Nebraska's on the rise. I think Purdue just is going to get better because of the hire that they made. There's no question that Illinois has arrived in Brett Bielema's fourth year. And Nebraska, Big Red being back, and they're going to be back this year. I think they got to a bowl last year at long last. I think they could win 10 this year. I think Raiola is one of the top 15 quarterbacks in the country. So they're developing some depth. Minnesota's good. I mean, there's really good teams, but they don't have the quality of depth that the SEC does. But at the very top,
Right.
I mean, the proof's in the pudding.
That's it.
They've got the last two national championships, and that I know that makes the SEC hurt just a little bit. But you know what? The evolution of the Big Ten only means that the SEC and Big Ten are going to become even bigger rivals, and that's going to be a ratings boom for all of us.
For everybody.
And I think Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey's relationship and this conversation that's out there about them becoming having a new deal with new relationships for crossover games between the institutions of the two conferences. That'll be maybe even a separate TV deal to help create another revenue stream.
So.
That's what this is about, is creating extra revenue streams. I think that's great for the game. I really do.
5-11 or 4-4, 2-2-3-1.
I get confused every time somebody starts talking about it. Let me say this about Tony Petitti, because he's gotten some negative press for not being as accessible as Greg Sankey. Tony Petitti's not in some cocoon somewhere saying, I don't want to talk to anybody. He just governs in a quiet manner.
Right.
He's not looking to bring attention to himself or to his office. He likes to play the game behind the curtain. Sometimes it's better. We've had way too many people, I think, presidents of universities, athletic directors, speak out of turn, which in turn makes it tougher in the press, I think, for the SEC, for any conference that's in that situation. Right. Sometimes you don't let the genie out of the bottle until you've come to a decision. That's the way Tony Petitti works. I worked for him for 9 years at CBS. He was my executive producer. Tony's one of the smartest people I know. He and Roy Kramer, years ago, when he was a junior account executive, programming executive, actually, he was working in programming at ABC, they concocted the entire BCS operation. That was really, along with Roy, it was his thought. And that may sound like, gosh, what was that? Well, it was a big deal in 1992 to get the Big Ten to play against the winner of the conference not known as the Pac-12 in the Rose Bowl. To get those two factions together so maybe one could play two, if 1 and 2 were in either the Pac-12 or the Big Ten, that was a big deal back then. Magic. And I think now extending this and having 16 teams, which I believe is going to be the ending point, I think that's where we'll wind up. Whether it's 5-11 or 4-4, 2-2, I think if both the Big 12 and ACC each got 2, that would be probably better than it would be if they didn't have a guarantee of 2. Right. I think it's just the rub. It doesn't look right to them. It's a public relations nightmare, I think, to some extent. And I think that's why there was a pullback in the time from when the conversation began about it to the SEC meetings that took place in Destin. So we'll see where they go from here. That's well above my pay grade. But whether they do or they don't, 16 is better than 12. And my thought on it, and I've said this publicly for a long time, our issue isn't how many teams are in it, or are there too many teams? Our issue is the calendar. We have to get the calendar of college football adjusted. We need to have week 0 on August 10th, not August 23rd.
Right, yeah.
We need to play these games earlier in the season so that when we get to the biggest games, okay, the round of 8, the semifinals when we're at 4, and then the finals, we need to have that finishing up at or near January 1.
Right.
Not at the end of January when the NFL has got wild card playoffs and divisional playoffs on opposite it. I don't care what college football playoff game is on. If it's on opposite an NFL playoff game, you're not going to have as many eyeballs.
No way.
So that's the thing that we've got to do. And somebody's got to push the button on that. And I sincerely hope that whether it's Tony Petitti or Greg or both of them at the same time, in concert with Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips, they come up with that. Because that, to me, that's the central issue. Because television's not going to be willing to spend more money unless they know that they're going to get benefit from that.
Exactly.
And if your eyeballs and your ratings are 25 to 30% lower than the NFL, they're not going to spend that money.
No.
So you need to get out of the NFL's way. And if that sounds like you're placating to the shield, so be it. Okay? There is a lot of money, and we're the second most popular sport in America, but I don't care how big your college football fan base is. The sacred cow of sports television has been and remains the National Football League.
Hey, Tim, thank you so much for this interview, and we really appreciate it, and good luck this season.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
You bet.